Hey guys, I hope you are fantastic. Listen, I wanted to talk about the nervous system, all right, and the role that it plays in a lot of the injuries that you see, the sicknesses, the diseases, and stuff like that. I think it's something that we're not hitting on when it comes to most things out there. And I really didn't realize it until I actually started working with people who have cognitive issues, okay, whether it be from strokes, whether it be from just things happening, cognitively wise, Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that. Trying to work with these patients and clients, try to get them to a certain point, and then starting to see athletes and trying to put these things together and trying to figure out why people get sick, why people get hurt, why these things are occurring. And I think it's something that none in the medical community want to connect. They're not connecting the dots. They're just not. Unfortunately, they're just not doing it. If you really think about it, and I should have thought back sooner to my days in college. Okay. And I never forget my second semester of anatomy and physiology. I'll never forget it for as long as I live. I had a pretty darn tough teacher. She was a nun in college, and she was head, I think, of the nursing department. So she taught the health and phys ed that what I was in at that level, of nursing. And I was like, man, she is tough as all get out. Tough. But I remember the section vividly, the nervous system, because we went over the digestion, we went over the reproductive, we went over the circulatory, we went over all this stuff. And I did well, you know what I mean? B pluses probably and all them. When it got to the nervous system, it was by far the hardest chapter or chapters over that. I probably covered the majority of the semester, at least the second half of it. And I remember taking that test after about, I want to say 5, 6 weeks of it, going over the nervous system, maybe even 7 weeks. Like I said, it took a long time. And I remember getting the second highest grade. Now I was done on a curve. I still would have scored the second highest grade, but on the curve, it bumped me up to an A. I would have had a B or something like that. But the reason I remember that, not be so much for the grade, but for what we learned from it and how the intricity of it, of the whole human body was played in that thing. And I never really realized it though, because it was so hard, so complex. People didn't understand. I remember they were still telling us that once you became paralyzed, you were never going to walk again, never going to move. If somebody had a brain injury, you were done. If one side didn't move, none of that happened. But we're finding out that's not true. Okay. The neuroplasticity of the human body is actually much greater, and the brain is much greater than what we've ever given it credit for. And also with that, I think it has led to a lot of our issues that we have. And let me explain. When it comes to an injury, a non-contact, okay? So if you get hit, totally different. But a non-contact injury occurs and we blame it on a weakness. Now, why that can be a case of it, why was the muscle weak? Was it lack of training? Was it lack of movement? What was it? A lot of times, and in most cases, it's a lack of a firing mechanism. The firing mechanism firing at the precise time. I've seen small people, okay, not very big, not very, never get hurt. I mean, cut, run, do everything possible. And you're like, hmm. Then I've seen these monsters that are torn all up, right? You see people like Saquon Barkley. This dude was lifting weights like it was his job. Like he was just unreal. But yet he hurt his ankle and then he tears his ACL. Micah Parsons. Guys of that nature are destroying their bodies. Why? This should never happen. If we go up the strength and conditioning aspect, weak things break. Well, then those guys should never break. It should only be weak people that fall apart. But that's not the case. Now they're going to say, well, they play a high impact injury sport, and it's repetitive, and we can make all the excuses in the world. Strong things break, and strong things break just as much as weak things when they're not trained properly. And that's the issue that I'm trying to get at. We're not training the human body properly. So think about the human body. Stuff has to come out of the brain. Okay. It has to. That's why the brain is so important. It has to fire so fast. Like when I just put my hand out there, I didn't say fire my hand like this. It just did it. The neurological system was so quick and popped that out. If there's no impediment there, that fires at the normal speed that it's supposed to. And what I mean by impediment, there's not a weakness in the muscle and it's not blocked. It's not turned off. It's not injured, okay, or scarred. It fires extremely quick. So it can do the things that it needs to do at the right time. It doesn't need any other help. When those things become broken, AKA I hurt my ankle. Why did you hurt your ankle? Oh, it's weak. But why was it weak? Because the signal wasn't sent properly to it. So then that signal wasn't sent properly to it. And then I go to rehab it, but I never really fix it correctly. I wish people would really dive into how to fix the ankle correctly. It's such a pain in my rear end because that's one thing that I've studied more than probably any other injury out there is the ankle. And I'm telling you that 99.9% of people who have ankle injuries never heal it correctly. Never. You can reach out and I'll tell you exactly what we do and why my athletes tend to be much, much more durable because of what we do. Now, if they don't listen to me for the long term, then they break down. Am I God? I'm not even going to play that because God is totally on a whole other level. I'm just saying this is what I study. When that breaks down, there is an injury, there is a problem then that comes about, right? Then there's compensational patterns. Those compensational patterns have to be reorganized by the nervous system. The nervous system now is not running on the normal highway. So if I took 81 behind my house, right, and I chopped it up that you can't drive through there, now you have to drive on 22, which is the next major thoroughway through my area, there would be congestions. There would be delays. There would be all kinds of stuff. Wow, there's many traffic lights. There's much more traffic on there. That's more of a local to a 4-lane road. Unlike 81, where it's just you keep going, you get on, you get off, it's an interstate, right? That's like the neurological pathway is supposed to be on. That's how we should be flying. If there's an accident, construction, there's delays and everything's delayed. That's the same thing as the human body goes through. When those delays occur, stuff breaks down, such as if you knew there's construction out there, what are you doing? You leave a couple minutes early, sometimes a lot early, because you never know. If it's going to rain or storm, you should leave earlier. Okay. My appointment's at 5 and I usually leave at 4. It starts to get one of those big showers that come through in the, afternoon in the summer. I'm leaving at 3:45 just to make sure because I know how people drive. They can't drive very well. So I'm leaving early, right? That is the process of the neurological system. But we're not understanding that. We're not understanding it to any extent. That doesn't just go into injuries, it goes into disease as well. Now, not all disease. I'm not saying all this. But what I'm saying is there's a breakdown somewhere. So the gut has to be also controlled by what? The nervous system. The nervous system fires. It fires with the heart. It fires with everything. Everything controls off the nervous system. It is the electrical keyboard, all right, the main keyboard hub of the human body. It helps fire things correctly. When those things are broken because we didn't do our job, there's an issue. Such as we now know that when the big toe is not engaged correctly, that it does not fire the glute med correctly. That glute med then turns off because we're more sedentary than ever before. Now, people can believe that they don't. You can go listen to Cal Dietz. He talks about this. So if you don't believe me, because I'm not high enough in the strength and conditioning field, I know the majority of people out there would consider Cal Dietz way up here. All right. He also talks about that. So there is a problem. If that problem occurs and there's no firing of that glute med, something else has to fire. Well, it's going to become my quad. Now it might become my hamstring. Something else fires and then it overfires, overstimulates, and boom, something happens because that's overused. But it's because something shut down because the nervous system didn't need to fire anymore. So this is where the nervous system is so important. It's not that that muscle became weak per se. It turned off because it wasn't being utilized and it says, I'm going to save energy. Okay. If we want to use in those kind of terms, like when I go in a room and my kids leave all their lights on, I'm like, turn them off. If you're not in here, what the heck are you lighting the room for? Conserve energy. Same thing the human body does. But we're not seeing it like that. We don't want to see it like that because that doesn't make us the money. Okay. We can continue to say, you just need to get stronger. And I see all these guys lift all this freaking weight and they still get hurt. And I'm like, I don't understand. I'm a prime example. I did that stuff. I used to be able to squat a house. I could deadlift a house. How I could do all that stuff, but yet my body broke and destroyed itself because certain things didn't work. And I'm still paying the price for it. Now I don't have the pain that I had because I figured out what got wrong and I know how to fix these things. But I know the glute med is still having issues trying to fire all the time. Now, you can agree with me, you don't. You don't have to believe anything I say. Hopefully, this opens the eyes of people out there that many people are doing things incorrectly. Why? Because it's about the look. It's about bigger, faster, stronger in this athletic field. No, it's not. Stronger, yes, I'm all about that. Faster, yes. Twitchier. That terminology gets thrown around too much because people who are utilizing that, a lot of these strength coaches, AKA I should call them strength coaches. I'll use that term very loosely because most of these guys, they just play the sport and then they just get into that field thinking they know what they're talking about. Um, they don't understand what the twitchiness means. Ask them. They don't know the fast twitch muscle fibers or slow twitch, the A and B, and which one works what and how it functions. They have zero clue. You know what I mean? They just look at stuff on YouTube and get it. But these are the things that I look into and how and why they're so important and so imperative in our design of life and how we're supposed to develop and get better and why people are falling apart, especially now. So people ask me why so many more injuries now. Well, let's look at it. What do we have access to that we did have access to 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago? It's a thing that you're watching with me, a computer. Not only computer, that's not the main issue, but it's the scrolling of the phone. So these athletes' reactions are becoming slower. We know this. Whether they want to admit it or not, they're becoming slower because the phone scrolling does the reaction for us. There's no reaction that I have to work on because the phone is doing it for me. When it does it for me, guess what? My body slows down. So then you see an increase in what? Dementia, all these other things. Do I believe that it has to do with our food that we eat? 100% we eat crap for food. It is definitely an issue. But it's also because we're not training the brain. The brain doesn't have to function as hard. They tell us in the course that I took on dementia, how to deal with this stuff was you have to get people to work their brain more. It's learning a second language, playing an instrument, okay? Doing brain games, crossword puzzles, these kind of those things keep it. And how do I know? My grandma, who was 90-some years old before she passed away, used to do crossword puzzles out of the paper every day. Used to sit there. They get them, whatever time she get them in the morning. I don't know when she get them. And then she sits there and do them. And I'm like, damn, she's pretty good. My other grandma who didn't do that suffered. Now, am I blaming you 100% on that? No. But I'm just saying we have to understand these things can be fixed if we start to understand the neurological makeup. In the neurological makeup is what? What sends a lot of these signals through is the fascia, the sheathing around it. Now, I understand fascia makes up tendons, ligaments, all this kind of stuff. That's fascia too. But there's a sheathing around it, and that sends these currents firing through. So when I get a cut and I get a scar, the fascia is damaged. So then the scar actually uses that as a roadblock for things to get around. We have to wake up to this situation. We have to. We have to start thinking differently if we want to get back on track, right? There was a guy that I used to train with. This is back 15 years ago. We used to just call this body hardening stuff. Okay, when I saw about it, U.S. military would do it, and they take rollers, the old rolling pins, not the rollers that everybody's foam rolling now, but the rolling pins from from what you eat, stuff like that, and then take bars and tires, and we would hit our shins, like just beat the crap out of them. People thought we were nuts, and we were. That was dumb, right? But it was to dead the nerves on there. So we were trying to destroy the nerves. So when somebody did kick me, guess what? It didn't hurt because I didn't feel it. The feeling was gone, right? So we know that there's damage that can be done to these things. Now, the nerves grow back, right? They do grow back, but not so much they grow back. There's new pathways that are created. And that's the thing that we never understood till recently, these new pathways. And how did I start to realize this? Is when I started working with people that were told they were never going to work a certain limb, such as a gentleman that I have is in a wheelchair. You're never going to use your left leg again. You're never going to move. It's not going to move. The hand will move, but it's going to be all over the place. And he does have issues with his hands, but he's getting it straight. He's moving it certain ways and stuff like that. But they said his number was like he moved his leg. He now can actually push himself up with some assistance, utilizing that leg. So what did we do? The nerves never came back. The brain was still fried because that part of the brain that controls that was fried. But new neurological patterns were being formed in different parts of the brain to help him use that. Now, does it take time? 100%. But these things are occurring. The nervous system, I think, is 100% the key to how we can get athletes actually to survive and actually thrive in an era that's trying to destroy them with the processed food, the screen time, the sitting too much in these schools and stuff like that. Let's change school systems. Let's go 3-4 hours a day tops, get their asses out, get them moving. It's become a babysitting service because both parents now go to work, right? Because people want more money. The government wants more taxes. They want to do this stuff, so they steal your money from you. Okay, we all know that. But we have to get these athletes and people to start realizing that we're actually doing harm. We're not helping them out. And it's not just right now. It's just for the future, right? Right now, they're saying that 42% of people, the NIH or something like that, says 42% of people over 55 will most likely experience dementia. That's a horrible thing that we need to fix. And if we don't start fixing these things, we're in trouble. So let me know what you guys think. Have yourself a blessed day, and God bless you.